Want to gain perspective? Hear from someone who in a positive way will cause you to remember your own mortality, who channels an understanding that we all need. One that cheers living on borrowed time, but doing so in a really positive way. Well, if you're interested in that perspective, this episode is for you. Now, it sounds cheerless, but I promise you this interview will actually optimize your optimism, and that's what I've titled it. Now, if we've never met, I'm Matt Maloney, host and founder of Northern Vibe. We're about sharing stories. This is where curiosity is cultivated. This is where discussions are held with interesting, informed people. And I've got to say, I am thrilled to have Sara Sexton, whose blog, Breathing Borrowed Air, is a cyber beacon of hope on Facebook. Now, we're getting some really interesting locations where people are listening from. A big hello to, Woodjul again. Thanks very much for tuning in. So please tell us where you're from, ask questions, make comments. We've got some great suggestions from the comments page, so please keep them coming. Now, this includes suggestions for guests. Nominate someone you want to see on Northern Vibe. Contact me through the Facebook page. In fact, Sara was nominated by a listener, and last week's guest, Jessica Lynn, was as well. I promise I listen to my listeners. Now, we always have a mention in dispatches to a charity that are doing great work. And this week, a big shout out to Sarah's favourite charity, 65 Roses. I'm actually going to, unfortunately, couldn't get anyone on, so I'm just going to show the screen of whom they are. Now, 65 Roses really do some great work. As you can see from there, they're the peak consumer body for people living with cystic fibrosis. They take donations. They're also always chasing volunteers. Jump on the website there, cysticfibrosis.org.au, or you can just Google 65 Roses and it will come up. So, about Sara. She's a cystic fibrosis survivor. She's a wife, a mother, a lung transplant recipient. She's a blogger, but ladies and gentlemen, she is not a hugger. Sara, thank you very much for coming on.
It's okay, Matt. Thanks for having me.
Oh, no, I assure you, it's my pleasure. I've really been looking forward to this one, actually. Look, I know your excellent stepson, Jackson, is quite a handy soccer player, but could you tell us about your family circumstances?
I married my husband 4 years ago. It was 4 years in October. We've been together 7 years. And he's got an 11-year-old son who keeps me on my toes, keeps me very busy. Sure, you're aware of what they're like. And keeps me active. Yeah. And we live at home with 3 dogs and a cat.
Well, that's kind of cool. And look, what do you and your husband do for a living?
Blake's an electrician by trade, and we started an electrical business. Well, he started it about 12 years ago. And since then, March last year, we bought Solar Heart. So now we're into solar again. We bought it in the economic downturn, just as everything was about to crash. And luckily, it's been doing really well. Keeping it afloat.
That's fantastic. I'm really happy to hear that. I've got to say, coming from a small business family, it warms my little capitalist heart to see small business people kicking bottom. And look, we've already got a bit of love on Facebook. So g'day to Mariba, and g'day to my mate Chris McLaughlin. Chris McLaughlin, you are a legend. I'm kind of half thinking of asking you to come on, to be honest, because of your inspirational stuff. Yes, I've been chasing the Yowie people. I'm kind of half tempted to get as well. So g'day to everyone up there in Mariba. But look, so cystic fibrosis, we've all heard of the disease, but can you tell us what it is?
So CF affects on average 1 in 2,500 people in Australia. It's a genetic lung disease, but going on from the lungs, you do have many more issues like the digestive system and other stuff like that. It's a pretty horrible disease that eventually your lungs just pretty much just give up on you. And I had a lot of scar tissue on mine. So yeah, that's from a young age that happens. And a lot of people are also carriers, which they don't know about as well. So 1 in 25 people are actually CF carriers.
Okay, how old were you when you diagnosed?
6 weeks old. I wasn't thriving to live. my mum was a first-time mum, and she kept taking me back to the doctors saying, "This kid screams a lot." And they were all saying, "You're a first-time mum, that's what kids do." Mum was like, "They don't scream like this." and, and at 6 weeks old, they did a heel prick test on me, and it was confirmed I had cystic fibrosis. And Mum was put on a plane and flown to Brisbane. This is back before the days of computers and Googles, so she was handed a couple of brochures and told, "This is what your daughter has," and jet set it off to Brisbane for the next 6 weeks of her life to find out what to do with me.
Oh my God, what an upheaval. I've had another guest on that had a comparable situation to that, the excellent Keely Johnson, who was diagnosed with cancer at an extremely young age. Look, what's your earliest memory of being aware of what that truly meant?
My first actual hospital admission when I was 3 years old, I vaguely remember bits of it, surprisingly, mainly making friends. One of the older girls took me under her wing. She was 6 at the time and taught me how to colour in and do stuff like that. So it was actually good memories, but I don't remember the needles and the horrible parts of that visit, but yeah, I do remember the good stuff.
Well, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
It's a bit of an indication of the resilience of children.
Yep, definitely.
Yeah, like it's, and I think that I think that's also a testament to your character too. But look, when was your first operation?
First operation wouldn't have been until I was 10 years old. After years of abuse to my veins and copious amounts of IVs put into them, my veins just went, "Nope, no more," gave up on me, hid under my skin and wouldn't come back out. So it was actually midnight when I had one of my blowouts, they used to call them, with the IV line. And my doctor at the time, Dr. Messer, shout out to him, he kept me alive all those years. He was a pediatric doctor at the time. I remember him coming through the door at about midnight one night, putting the cannula in my arm and saying, "She's getting a portacath tomorrow." And that was the end of it. They just booked me in, and that was my first operation, getting a portacath.
All right, we might take a really quick diversion and I might show people what a portacath is. And while I've got the screen up, if I can get you to explain it.
So when my veins collapsed, they potentially put a fake vein into you. So that one, the first one was in my chest, and the vein goes to your heart, and it's just a permanent vein that doesn't fail unless it gets an infection.
Right. So I'm going to keep the screen on and I'm going to point at stuff. Can you see it?
Yep.
All right. So basically, they stick something at the top of your skin. Now, is that exposed or is that under?
No, that was under my skin, and I had it from when I was 10 till when I was 17. And being a teenage girl, I absolutely hated it. It was the size of a stethoscope, and it stuck out of my chest because I was really skinny.
And it went, as we can see there, and they've done it purple, which is actually good rather than the red, which does indicate it's a vein. So directly into where the rest of the veins come in.
Into the heart, yeah.
Whoa, that's kind of all right. Look, were you aware of it?
Yep, very. I was asleep for that operation, but I was aware that I had that thing in me for 7 years. It actually was running really well. I made them take it out when I was 17, just for vanity reasons. And by that stage, they had a newer version of it. They upgraded their models, and they actually transferred it into my arm, which was a lot smaller on the inside of my arm. It was very tiny, which was better for my vanity.
So look, when you say you're aware of it, so could you, like, I've got to ask this, and I'm really sorry to pry, obviously.
Go for it.
I'm confident you might be used to it, and it is the purpose of this interview, I suppose.
Yeah.
But it's terrifying and inspiring at the same time, if that makes any sense. Could you actually feel it in your heart?
I could, if you ran your fingers through, you could feel where the line went, but I only could feel to about there, and then I couldn't feel it because it would go into the chest wall then.
Right.
But I could feel it in my neck, and I hated touching it. It gave me the heebie-jeebs, so I didn't often do that.
Really? So it wasn't like a hair thing where you found yourself fiddling with it or anything like that? Okay. So look, when to talk of you've had a full lung transplant,
Yep.
and tell me, when did talk of a transplant start?
Well, my mum was always very open with me, which helped me on the lead up to transplant. And she's always made it so it wasn't so scary for me when the time came. She's talked me through it my whole life, and I've seen a lot of CF patients do it before me. So at 17, my lungs, well, they got lung disease really badly. And from 17 to 25, I had numerous hospital stays. Eventually, the antibiotics weren't working for me, and I wasn't putting on weight. My lung function was down to 24%. And they told me at 25 I wouldn't see 30 if I didn't have a lung transplant.
Wow, man, that's kind of that's kind of intense. Can you walk us through the the process of what happened with it?
So you mean the lead up to
Yeah,
like getting what you have to go through to get transplant?
yeah, yeah. The lead up to it, and obviously I would imagine because it's one of those things they kind of tell you, like having had most people nowadays have had a bit of an operation.
Mm.
So there's a certain risk, and
Mm-hmm.
it's normally in the 10 to lower percent, but I would imagine the risk rate of failure would be considerably higher with that.
Even the first year after transplant, they only give you 50% in the first year. A lot of people don't make it through that first year, and I'm now up to just over 7 years. So hopefully that keeps going up and up. But in the lead up, so from that 25 to 27 age when I had the transplant, it's very tough. They don't just take everyone who needs a transplant. There's a lot they put into it. They don't want the organs to go to waste because it's obviously a pretty special gift to get somebody's organs. Excuse me. So I went through 2 years of test after test after test, and sat down in the room with the doctors to see if they would approve me. And the first round, they actually did not approve me. So I was too underweight at the time, and they said I wouldn't survive the operation being the weight I was. Me too.
Yeah.
My mouth's gone dry from too much talking.
People can't see me.
Mine's water. Yeah, so I had to try again. So about 8 kilos. I was 44 kilos. So very, very underweight. And I had to get a feeding peg put in my belly to put through 2,500 calories a night through that. And I eventually put on 4 kilos, and then they accepted me.
Sweet mother of God. Look, actually, my now deceased mother was listed for a lung transplant, and she too wasn't, like they kind of said. And kudos to all the magnificent medical people. It must be tough for them making these life and death decisions, and that's what they are.
Yes, definitely. It was horrible for them to tell me the first time. The doctor was crying in the room as well, so
Yeah,
it was hard.
yeah. And they bear this, they bear this enormous burden, and I just want to. It's not a normal shout out, but I really do want to put a shout out to the great and the good, our best and our brightest, who are the medical people. So we sincerely thank you for your service and everything you've done, and it's really kept my mother alive for as long as that could possibly happen. We quite understand that you had to say no to her too. We get that, but thank you for everything that you've done. So if you're a medico and looking at the stats, if I can. It's not a tangent, really. Well, it is a tangent, but we go off on a very quick but relevant tangent. Like the stats of each interview that we do change for each interview. Like initially, it kind of started off as older males, but now we're getting a really wide spread of people, and therefore, I can say with some degree of confidence, there's going to be a medico of some sort listening to this. So it doesn't matter if it's a paramedic, allied health, so if you're an OT or a physio or whatever it is, right up to a surgeon, you know, we really appreciate what you do. You are our best and our brightest. And I've worked in the emergency services. So, you know, I can sort of, I stood in admiration of watching these magnificent people.
And the amount of time they work as well. I don't think people realise that from when the person is declared deceased who they are taking the organs from, it's the same doctor who goes from that person all the way through to the person who's receiving the organ. So they can work well over 24 hours just on the one set of organs.
Wow.
It's a hard job.
Oh, the longest shift I ever worked, and it was for a missing person that I can't comment too much on because it's actually an ongoing investigation. But yeah, myself and my colleague Justin Heineman, who I know actually does tune in occasionally. Yeah, we worked on a very long job that went, and we didn't sleep over the first 24 hours. We were if you Jessica Lynn, the special effects makeup artist last time, and we talked a lot about zombies. Well, if she could have been there, Justin and I, she would have seen 2 zombies in action. Look, your excellent blog, and I mean that, like, because I've actually been, because when it kind of started off, I had heard of your blog, and I'm ashamed to admit this, but I hadn't actually read it until it was recommended to me. And
I'll forgive you.
well, mea culpa, mea culpa, mea but I've since been reading it. I've become a bit of a fanboy, actually, and I really sincerely recommend everyone. So it's Breathing Borrowed Air. I recommend everyone to log on to. I think there's this really cool entry. I'm going to share it. I'm going to share the blog. Hang on. I'm going to read the quote. So there it is. It's a Facebook blog, obviously, but one of your entries has this. Thanking a family who, faced with the ultimate pain of losing a loved one, make a decision to save someone else's loved one. How do you possibly thank these strangers, family you are forever connected to? You can't. The only thing you can do is make the most of every moment you have been blessed with. Sweet Mother of God, if you are not touched by that, you yourself need an empathy transplant. So, like, I suggest to people to jump on Breathing Borrowed Air. It really is a great read, and it's a little pretentious of me to say, but I am very well read, and I really enjoy reading it. But look, do you know your donor?
No, I don't. We did get told off the grapevine there were 3 teenage boys who died in two different car accidents in the lead up to my transplant. But no, I don't have any confirmation.
Okay.
That's all I know.
And referring back to the quote, and one of the things I love about your blog is that gratitude is a real theme. And I'm big on that. Because I think that existence is a miracle, and we should just be down on our knees every day thanking the Creator for the fact that we're here. And I'm sure my friend Chris McLaughlin will agree with that, actually. Oh, hang on, I've got a question. But look, I do want to ask you about gratitude, but I've just had a question come up from Mr. Sandy McKeenan. Sir, thank you very much for tuning in. Sandy has asked, you say there are 1 in 25 carriers of CS, but is it hereditary? Is there a simple test that you can do so that you can know if there's anything that you have that you're not passing on to your children?
Yeah, so you can get tested to see if you're a genetic carrier of CF. You can, yeah. A lot of my family members have now too, because they don't really want to pass it on to their children. Even though there's a lot of advances, it's still, they've seen me suffer a lot, so don't want their children to do it either.
That's a magnificent question from Sandy. Look, I'm so scared about asking this question. No, I'm going to do it.
Go.
Well, the entire implication behind that is, like, because I've got quite a few, not quite a few. I know a number of people who have got Down syndrome kids, and all of them say that they would not swap anything, despite the fact that, Down. Knowing everything that you know, would you in hindsight, stop yourself from existing?
No, I wouldn't. But I guess there's so many different types of CF. I, believe it or not, don't feel like I've had it that bad, considering I've seen some of my friends die at a very, very young age. Even just to make it where I have to work to raise a child, help to raise a child, get married. I mean, I've done everything everyone's meant to do. So yeah, me personally, no. But like I said, I watched my best friend die when I was 10 years old and she was 13 of this disease. So there are other circumstances where do turn it around, I guess. So.
Look, I'm going to dive deeper into this, despite the fact that I know it's going to get me in trouble. And look, the whole thing about Northern Vibe, and I say this to my listeners, is like, I have a certain worldview. And most people who watch this, if they don't already know it, would have guessed it. But for me, it's about exploring ideas. And yes, I have a worldview, but I'm not here to impose it on anyone else. And the best way of framing this, really important question, and this is unscripted too, listeners. I said, Sarah, I'm going to be talking to you about this and this, but Sarah, you caused this because you kind of brought this up. Actually, no, Mr. McKernan, you brought this up actually, because you asked this question, so it's you who's responsible for this, vicariously at least.
It's all right. Education is key. So,
well, the nature of human existence is suffering.
mm-hmm.
Like it's a tough world, and even in our really comfortable modern first world existence, which is great compared to, it doesn't matter if you scope it back, it doesn't matter how you look at human existence. If you go sideways now, even in these magnificent times, there's what, about 5 billion people on the earth today, and there's still, what is it, 1 billion people living in China, and I love China. Like I've lived there. I adore the Chinese people. They are magnificent. I have a deep love of Chinese culture. I'm mixed race. So I kind of, but without wanting to say anything that's going to get me banned on WeChat or on anything else now, because you can't kind of like, funnily enough, you can say anything you like about Donald Trump, but you say anything about China, you're done. Like, you're gone. But, obviously China has a high population of people who are moving from there rather than to there, would perhaps be the best way of articulating this without getting me in trouble. And then you consider places like Africa and India. Like, if you're going to be living anywhere, you're going to be living here. And yet still, there are suffering. And proper suffering, like the sort of stuff that you've been through is, and I admire you for pointing out, you don't see yourself as the ultimate of suffering.
No.
Like, suffering really is the human condition, regardless of where you live. It's what we do.
Yeah, and ultimately I am not suffering. I get some of the best healthcare in the world, and I've got a brilliant support network. So,
absolutely. But my argument is, and I suppose I'm just going to have to state a claim and just ask for a comment. And you don't have to validate. Like, I'm not seeking validation here. I'm just seeking a discussion. I still think it's all worth it.
I definitely do too. And especially with the way CF's come now, there's tablets where certain strains of CF, they can pretty much cure it now. So it's only a matter of time. It won't be too long.
Okay. Can we delve into this deeper, even going back into time without that? Would it still be worth it?
Yep. Like I said before, the first hospital trip I had when I was 3, I remember it. And some of the best times of my childhood were in hospital.
I mean, honestly, that is, I'm sorry, I want you to hold your train of thought. I really do. But that's amazing. It's like, so out of this incredible suffering and this incredible pain comes this incredibly beautiful. Do you have any friends left from then too that you're still in contact with?
Yes, not as many as I would like to have. And that's not from us falling out, that's from them passing away. But yes, I still am close to a lot of them who are alive. We have a weird friendship. It's like, I don't know, it's a connection that you can't explain.
Look, I love clubs. but that's one club I'm not going to want to be in.
Yeah, no.
You don't want to be in that club. You don't want to be. And look, I've just come out of the police, and I can see there's actually a couple of colleagues listening. So if you're current or serving QPS, we're pretty awesome too. Admittedly, not as awesome as the medical people who really are the best in the brides, but we're okay. We get clubs.
Yeah.
We really do. Like it's a brotherhood, the police, and I mean that in a totally non-sexist way. It's a brotherhood, the police. I kind of get that, but it's not a brother/sisterhood that I would want to be involved in. But this is a great segue into the question that I had actually asked before Mr. McKernan asked that excellent. And I really do want to, I just want to reiterate, sir, that's a brave and magnificent question. Gratitude's a real theme of your blog. Can we talk about gratitude?
Yep. So my mum has watched me suffer a lot during my whole life, and I'm pretty sure she's suffered a lot more than I have just through watching me. As a parent, you can probably understand that. I think a lot of it was harder on her than it was on me. And just for her to see me normal, I mean, I say that very freely, that word, normal. As normal as I can be.
So many different levels.
I know, yes. But I mean, she's just never expected this. And I mean, from them going through a tragedy in my donor family to this, it's just, like I've said, you just can't explain it. I'm pretty good with words. I don't know what I'd say to them. How do you say thank you? Just a genuine thank you. I just don't know. I just try and do everything I possibly can to keep my lungs good and live the life that their loved one would have wanted to, I guess.
And fundamentally, really, and this didn't occur to me until this moment, actually, that's actually the theme of the movie Saving Private Ryan, because, this chap gets all these other people who have to sacrifice themselves for him. And he wonders if he's lived a good life. That's an incredible burden, because one of the themes of that movie, and I would imagine one of the themes of your life, is that's while it's a blessing, and you get down on your knees every day. Well, for me, I would be thanking God. I don't know who you're thanking, but the burden of knowing that you're kind of vicariously living someone else's life and someone else's pain and suffering, that would just put a completely different perspective on.
It definitely does. And I have written to my donor family. I write to them every year around the time, and I haven't heard back, but that's okay, because I get that it is hard on them that time of the year. Yeah, I've heard many, many different stories about donor families too, how one lady who did connect with her daughter's heart transplant recipient, and they became very good friends, and then that lady died as well, and she said it felt like losing her daughter all over again. So I do understand why they don't want to connect with us sometimes, but yeah, it would be nice to know.
Yeah. And again, the gratitude and the beautiful, the way you've articulated, it's breathing borrowed air. And we're all doing that. And as much as this is deep and it's kind of sad, but it reminds us, memento mori, it reminds of our mortality. And clearly, if I can make this observation, and if you disagree, that's fine, but looking at your life and the things that you've achieved, and by that I mean, because we always talk about achievement like it's this, oh, you need to be, in politics, or this great.
No one just wants to be average.
Dude, if you have if you're a mother and and you are, and you're if you're these really simple things, you've ticked these basic boxes in life, and you're creating wealth, and you're employing people, and you're loving someone, and you're being loved, what else is there? I
don't feel as much more, but everyone wants more than what they've got. No matter what you've got, you always want more. So.
And look, I can't throw stones, because part of the reason I'm doing this is because I have this, I suppose, kind of like Harry Potter, I have this deep, even as coming up on 50, I have this deep sense of wanting to prove myself. It's one of the reasons I joined the police. And it's because, I just wanted to prove myself. Like, I had all these other opportunities. I could have gone into my family business, which is pretty successful. Part of me really regrets not doing that, actually, because financially, okay.
But like you said, business is tough. I see it stresses on my husband too.
Oh yeah, but my dad did it. Well, I mean, we contributed to it. Like, make no mistake. Like, before I went to school, our shop was open from 6 to 9, 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. every day of the week, 364 and a half days of the week. On Christmas Day, we'd only do a half day. And I was there. I would normally do the 6 to 7, and my brother would do the 7 to 8, although we'd swap that over sometimes. Of course, we'd finish school at 3, but I had to be at the shop at 5 when everyone else knocked off. So either to do the math. So I'd either be doing the hour and a half from 5 to 6:30, or the 6:30 to 2.5 hours. I'm not even doing math here. It's probably gym. Anyway, so the half shift in between 5:30 and 9 p.m. every day. On the week, and 8 hours Saturday, 8 hours Sunday. And you know what? I kind of say it, and people go, I don't regret it. Like, it was a really good thing, and we contributed to wealth creation. I got to meet a lot of excellent people. There's this, we employed there's this fantastic guy, Trevor Steyer, who we employed, who's the father of a friend that I went to school with, who I'm still mates with now. So all these extra things, in the same way that Colouring In came out with that. So it's funny how really good things come out of really bad things, and suffering. Maybe we should actually be. Do you have gratitude for your suffering? The actual.
It's funny. Blake and I were just talking about this last night. And he was saying sometimes I can be a little bit cold with him, and because I've seen so much bad stuff happen. When him and Jackson injure their toe or get a blister or something, I'm just like, you'll survive. And Jackson has to be pretty much vomiting or his head exploding for me to let him have a day off school, and he absolutely hates that. But
Look, I'm the same way. Like, I'm the same way. Like, and like, to kind of like put it into, because I could kind of do that, because I am terrible. It was a soccer game where a mate of mine, Pat McLaughlin, who probably is going to listen to this as well, because Zach went over, and mate, he was like rolling around the floor, and I was like, get up. And he was like, your son's over. I'm like,
he'll get up. They bounce.
There's nothing broken. Like, oh no, like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Harden the heck up, and Kate, my wife, before we go and talk to and look, I am getting better, but like I try hard to be sociable, but it's not that I'm unsociable. It's just that I've got so much to do, and but before we go on social events that she organises, because my wife is she's a normal human being, well, except for a bad taste in men, obviously, but with that glaring exception. She likes socializing with people, and she likes getting out there and drinking and talking and doing that sort of stuff. Now, if we get to a bunch of people that we don't know, she's like, Matthew, we're talking to normal human beings tonight. Human suffering is not a cause of amusement. I'm not supposed to laugh at it, okay? Nor are you supposed to get philosophical or deep about it. You're supposed to just empathize. You're supposed to do all this. And she gives me this chat.
I feel like we're very much the same. Even Jackson injured himself skimboarding the other day, and Blake and I just kept walking, and he was like, Dad, you don't even care. And I was back behind him laughing, and he turned around and he goes, and you? And I couldn't stop laughing. He wasn't that badly hurt. He just came off on the wrong angle.
Oh, that's it. Yeah, like it's not their fault. But look, we're more than halfway through. I haven't even hit all my questions. So this is not the only health issue that you've had. We're discussing some of those.
After the transplant is when it all started, really, and that was thanks to mostly medication. So I was instantly diagnosed with diabetes after, which was steroid-related diabetes, which is a different kind. It's not type 1 or type 2. Then my kidneys failed, and I was diagnosed with my second genetic disease, which is, it has a really long name, so I'm just going to call it AHUS, but that stands for a massive big name that I can't even say. And it's something about the way the blood flows into your kidneys, clotting, something like that. And then my liver failed. So I have psoriasis, I think they call it, which is pretty much a drinker's liver when I don't drink. I mean, I did when I was a bit younger, but not to the excess where my liver would have failed. That's thanks to the medication as well. Then 2017, I got bowel cancer, and I had to get a chunk of my bowel cut out. I think that's it. Sometimes there's a lot. I forget sometimes, but I think that's it.
Yeah, every now and then I get this feeling that I'm just not supposed to be here. And look, I don't want to get too psychological here, but there are some reasons for that. But dude, like, you're just not supposed to be here.
I'm invincible. Jackson calls me the Hulk. I can't die. But yes, I've been through a lot the last 7 years, but yes, it's been a lot easier to cope with it with good lungs.
Look, I've had a question it's actually not on the thread, but it's been put through to me on another way. Terry Doyle has posed a question.
Oh, great! Hi, Terry. He's going to dump me in for some stuff here.
Yes, he has. Tell me about inline hockey playing.
So when I had the porta cap in when I was 10, the doctor specifically made a point of saying, do not join any contact sports. So me being me was like, stuff you all, I'm going to play inline hockey, which is hockey on roller skates against boys. And it was pretty rough. And yeah, the doctors were not happy with me. So I did that for years with Terry.
In your face, Doyle. You like that? You like that? She likes giving that to you. That's right.
Yes, and Terry and I have stayed good friends since. He's been a good family friend for a long time now.
Yeah, and I got to say, I met him through another thing. I'll go off on because I want to listen to you talk. I don't want. But I organised an event in Cohen, and it was the 150th celebration of the founding of the Queensland Police Service. And my inspector said, "Oh, I want you to organise an event up in Cohen for that." Yes, mate. I want more than just photographs and government departments talking to each other. I want a big event. I'm like, sir, it's Cohen. Cohen. Hands, tip of Cape York, halfway between population of about 380 people. Like, yes, just make it big. And Terry Doyle came up and supported me on that, actually, and he did an absolutely great job. So, Tezza, you're a legend. Thank you very much too. Look, I'm really enjoying this, and this has been an entire big tangent because it's actually been off the listed questions I asked you. But I'm going to go back to an important one. How has COVID affected you?
It affected me while it was in Cairns, which happened to be over my birthday last year in March. So Blake locked me down in the house. He moved out to our neighbour's house. Luckily, our neighbour is a single man with 5 bedrooms. So Blake and Jackson were living there for the 2 or 3 weeks. And yeah, because Blake obviously had to work because we'd just taken over the business. And because he was out in the community a lot, he didn't want to be coming home to me. And we've cut a hole in the fence. So we have a gate that combines our yard. And that was how I spoke to them 3 weeks.
So you basically had a little watch house window that you were talking to them through, yeah? Have I got that right? How big was it?
It's a proper gate. We put a proper gate there, so our
Oh,
dogs can have
okay.
access to both yards. It was mainly for our
1.5?
dogs, and
Was it 1.5?
yes, it's all legit. And yes, we do. It must trip the postie out when he sees the dogs running from our yard, and then all of a sudden they're in the neighbour's yard, and they're just running back and forth. But yeah, we do have a. It was good. I mean, the lockdown wasn't great, and Blake didn't appreciate it because I took up some home renos of my own. Apparently, I used the wrong color paint in one of the rooms, but white is white. I didn't know there were different color whites, so
The cream,
it
the
looks the
off-white, the
same to
ivory.
me.
The cream, the off-white, the ivory, the bone, or the beige.
Yes.
Oh.
So I did a bit of DIY home renos, and that was kept me busy 3 weeks.
The cat was away.
Yeah.
Hey, look, you engage in a fair bit of support work, and not just the issues you struggled with, but with people generally. Tell me about that.
So I like to go around to all the schools. Some of the younger generation who have CF, our students don't know about it, so I'm sort of an advocate for them. Go around and tell all the students about CF. I've been doing that for a long time now. I do a lot of talks now on organ donation and transplant since I've had the transplant, obviously. But yeah, that's it. Anytime anyone wants me to talk, I'm pretty happy to get up and talk. It's a subject I know pretty well, so I'm confident talking about it.
Yeah. And look, how often do you update your blog?
I don't feel like I did it too regularly last year, only because I didn't have a lot going on. And I think COVID took a big part in that because nobody was walking out of the house with cold or flus, which meant there wasn't any influenza or anything in the community. And I tend to update it when I'm bored or I can't sleep, when I'm having a no sleeping moment at the present time, which is why I've been updating a bit lately. All my best thoughts come to me at midnight for some reason. I don't know. And I just write them down, and or when I'm in hospital.
I've had another Maloney come on, actually. It's just, they've just done the emoji thing, so they're just loving it. So, hello, Amy.
Oh, she works for us. Hi, Amy.
Yeah, hello, NY.
Jackson asks all the time if you're related.
Look, we probably, well, genetically no, but like, because Maloney actually is the anglicised version of servant of the church. So we were the scumbags who were dropped off on the stairs of the church.
I can't wait to tell Amy that tomorrow.
Well, yeah, well, she's listening. Yeah. So, Amy, we were the people dropped off on the because like our proper Irish surname is this unpronounceable Gaelic kind of thing, and I know one or two words of Gaelic from having been over there, but I love the Irish. I have Irish blood, but those people really do need some more vowels.
Well, I'm actually a Mulligan, so I'm Irish too, and we were
Oh, there we go. Yeah. And we need consonants. Really,
yes.
It's just always. But Maloney means servant of the church. We were the people who were taken to the church off, and because before there's any government kind of stuff, that the church raised orphans, and that's who we are. So if you're a Maloney, you're a servant of the church. We're raised by them.
Well, a bit of family history on the Mulligans too. Going off topic again, we were my 5 great uncle who discovered gold in Palmer River. It was James Venture Mulligan. So
no way.
We have a bit of family history here too.
Yeah. Well, did you know much about him? I've actually read about him.
Well, I never met him. But yeah, I have read. My granddad was very into reading about him and telling me stories and that. So we do have a lot of books, and Jackson just got a book on him for Christmas.
Okay. So look, what is your favorite story from your blog? Like, that you kind of write. And I know, look, it's hard to put you on the spot, and I apologize for this. I know it's tough, but please do tell us, which one do you feel most?
I think after I had bowel cancer, Veronica from Blue Click Photography did a photo of me, and I think she just captured it perfectly. She got me a couple of weeks after the operation when all my bruises were very prominent, and she bought a couple of props, put me in a cape and a crown, and that got a lot of attention, probably mainly because of the photo, but yes, I think
and that's from the 28th of December?
possibly.
Is that the one with you with the cloud and the stuff?
No, that was long before that. This one was a cape and a crown. It would have been 2017, I'd say. So it was a while ago.
Oh God, right. All right.
Yeah, you'd have to go back a bit.
That's fine, but yeah, mate, that's kind of cool. Is there a link between the story that you like the most and the one that got the most views? Like, did that get the most views?
It did get the most attention, got the most shares and everything. I think it was just, truthfully, I don't remember a lot of the wording I put in. I think it was just the explanation of going through bowel cancer. You're probably aware that cancer does get a lot of attention. Some people don't know about CF. So you mentioned CF, you don't get too much. You mentioned cancer, you get a lot of attention. The C word always seems to get people involved a lot. So I think that was the main thing with that post.
Yeah, look, I suppose it's going to come down to
Everyone knows someone with cancer, so
yeah.
it's relatable.
Okay. Well, look, if people want to engage, because look, we're actually we're not going to wind up just yet, but I do find you an interesting person to talk to, not just on Northern Vibe, but at soccer. But if people wanted to engage you as a speaker, like how would they go about that? What do you?
People just normally ask me. I just get asked through different contacts, especially with the schools. It's always one of the teachers there will know one of my family members or something, and they'll ask me to come in. Yeah, it's normally just through people I know.
Right. And I've got to ask, how do the kids take, discussing these, pretty deep?
They're actually very good. They're very inquisitive. They ask a lot of questions that adults aren't game to ask too, which is perfectly fine with me. I'm there to answer everything. So,
what's the most interesting question you've had?
The one that always comes up at every school, no matter what, is what's your life expectancy? The kids always want to know that one, and whether I can have kids or not is always another one.
Okay. So what do you say?
So life expectancy for a CF is 39, and that age keeps going up and up. When I was born, they told mum it would be maybe 21. Now it's 39, and now with a transplant, I'm 35 this year, so hopefully we can get there. And if I do make it to 39, I'm definitely going to have a big 39th. I beat my life expectancy / last year in my 30s party, so you're invited. And I'll hopefully make it a charity event like I did for my 25th as well. We managed to raise about $20,000 for CF with that party, so hopefully I can do that again.
And that's great. Look, I know you can't drink, but I can't promise that the same thing. Like I am.
That's okay.
As Amy will tell you, I am a Maloney, and we're not teetotalers.
That's okay. You can drink what I can't.
Yeah. I'll compensate.
I'm everyone's designated driver.
Yeah. And are you willing to talk about the child thing, or like?
Yes. So transplant patients do have children. Me personally, I kept getting, probably a bit TMI here, but I did keep getting abnormal pap smears back, which indicated the start of cervical cancer. So that's one health issue I did forget to tell you. I did have a hysterectomy. Just to clear that up, because I didn't want children. My doctors knew I didn't want children. So I said, let's just cancel out cervical cancer and take it all out. So they did.
All right. Well, if I can make the observation, you kind of do have children.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, right. And okay, like I've got a question from my excellent friend Chris McLaughlin. Could you give an update on your hairstylist? And he calls us. He's asking for a friend. Chris, it's me. It's Matt. Come on. Okay.
My hairdresser did just have a baby, so I've been recently going to Tokanai hair.
All right. And yeah, actually, Chris does mention Jeans for Jeans Day too, because it really is. We're talking about you specifically with the. It really is inspirational, Sarah. It seriously is. It's like, dude, you get this one thing, and it leads to another, it leads to another, it leads to another, it leads to another.
Yes, transplant definitely isn't a cure, which people seem to think it is. It's definitely not. It's a more of a time extension. Your son's a gamer too, like Jackson. I always think of it like that, time extension.
But see, that's what it comes back to. And as I mentioned at the beginning, and I stand by this, like, the perspective of you really understand, because, you know, there is that old term, memento, you know, mori, which was in Lemony Snicket, for any Lemony Snicket fan. And I have got, I'm a great Lemony Snicket fan. Thank you to my kids for introducing me. But it's like, he makes it out to be a bad thing. It's like, memento mori, remember you will die. And it's meant to be bad, but that's not the way that it was actually originally intended. It's supposed to be, it's like, dude, you're on borrowed time, man. Like, you are on borrowed damn time. And you get that. And I think it's the perspective and the understanding of that, okay, so there's the bit of the, yeah, you're suffering. But like, it's kind of cool because it makes you appreciate this. As I noticed, you know, as I made the observation before, gratitude is the major theme.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a fanboy, Sarah. I don't mind telling you, I'm a fanboy. No,
Thank
seriously. Seriously. You know, I've written books and articles. So like, and I love your work.
Thank you.
And for me, the thing I like most about it is like, okay, I've gone through hell. I've done these things, and I really get, I get suffering, because you do, but it's all still worth it.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the nature of inspiration. And if I can look, I'm even going to, people hate it when I do this, but I'm going to quote Genesis, because, like, you know, when God made the earth, clearly, like, you know, suffering was a necessary part of it. It's not that he created suffering and evil per se. It's just that these are necessary side effects of having free will. And that's another discussion all in itself. But there's this beautiful line, and it was good.
Mm-hmm.
And you say the same thing as God. You get suffering. You get, it's not, you know, you're not, like, I've lived, like, don't get me wrong, I've seen my fair share of suffering, and I've endured a little bit too, but it's nothing compared to what you have. And you still say that it's good.
Mm-hmm.
It's all worthwhile. And
yeah, definitely.
Well, see, that's the nature of inspiration, you know. And I've lived overseas, and I lived in Outer Mongolia for a little while, and I met some street kids that just, I don't even want to articulate the things that they told me they went through, and the suffering and the hunger, like, you know, because one thing all the sufferings that, you know, you've been through and I've been through, which are nothing compared to yours, man, you know, to see seriously hungry kids with, like, you know, or even worse, when they're starting to get the bloated belly, they're that. And then speak to these kids and go, oh yeah, man, I still want to be here. Like, it's all wild. Like,
yep.
You know, maybe as individuals and maybe as a society, we just need to harden the heck up.
Yes, we all go through hard times.
Yeah. All right. Well, look, I think that really excellent observation that you just made is perhaps a really good way of a really good point to wrap it up. So, you know, thank you very much for kind of talking to me. I've had a great time talking to you. I know from some of the feedback here and my listeners that we have too. Look, to all of our excellent listeners, I should say, if you've liked this and you think it's a valuable conversation, even if you didn't agree with it all, like and share. We are growing, and we're actually kind of kicking bottom, but it's because of you. So please, like, you know, you got to tell your friends, you got to like, share it through other media. The excellent conversation I had with Jessica Lynn, and I really enjoyed that, despite the fact that there was a storm. Everything went wrong. Well, not everything went wrong. We still did it, but there was a storm. There was tech issues. It was just me frozen for, like, any time I asked. there was that, which wasn't all bad because it meant that people got to focus on my guest because like I'm
Yes.
a facilitator, like it's not about me, it's about, so and Jessica's a genius. And we had this really brilliant conversation about the nature of monstrosity, the nature of evil, and human psychology. So it wasn't just about sticking makeup on someone's face. That was, that was an excellent medium to be able to discuss these things. So look, like and share, watch that. If I could, I'm going to go out and say it too. Like, watch that interview. I really enjoyed that. Every Wednesday, my colleague David Young, or one of my other colleagues, does a podcast on Podbean. Yes to a North Queensland state. We came out of the New State movement, so unashamedly pro-New State. That's Wednesday night between 7 p.m. and 8 p.m. Get the Podbean app and have a listen. Next Monday, 18th of January, it's going to be cool. I'm doing Senior Constable Adam Frew, who did Yarrabah Yarns. Now, yes, I'm an ex-policeman. Yes, I'm pro-police. Yes, there are all these other kind of things putting on that. But Adam is a genuinely inspirational guy. He started up this small blog called Yarra Yarns, which is about Indigenous people sharing their stories in Yarrabah. And it was just supposed to be a positive thing to stop a lot of the negative social media stuff that was happening. Long story short, it ended up international. There are people literally on the other side of the world who know about Yarrabah Yarns. It's a great story as to how it came about and what happened to that. So please do, come into that. So we're going to finish up 4 minutes before the hour. Sarah, is there anything else that you want to say to anyone? And say something cool and inspirational.
Oh, mate, you put me on the spot. I can't say anything inspirational right now.
Okay,
but it's been a good chat. I think the whole chat just hopefully, I mean, if somebody can get something out of it, then our job's done here. So,
well, I certainly got something out of it. Look, I'll get you to stop. I'll get you to stay on the screen. I just need to have a quick chat afterwards. But to all of our listeners who have stayed with us for this hour, thank you very much. I hope you've enjoyed this conversation as much as I have. Tune into Northern Vibe next week. We are growing. If your assistance, thank you very much.